So, as y'all can see, they're just normal children, just like y'all. So, this is Lindy. Lindy was 20 years old at the time of the crash. Lindy was our memory maker. She videoed, photographed, and documented everyday life. When we got into her phone, Katie got into her phone, there were 55,000 videos and pictures and just everyday things that she had documented. She was a brilliant photographer. Her pictures were beautiful. I can pick out her pictures, at a glimpse. She was just so talented. She had such an amazing gift for photography and just creative beyond your wildest dreams. She was a sophomore at Nichols State University. She had just landed her dream job as the campus photographer. That was in November of 21. She was supposed to start that position in January of 22, but that day never came for her because her life was stolen by one man's selfish decision. Her and Cameron, they have so many videos of them. They would go to Walmart and they would find a little aisle where nobody was and they would do a little dance. They would go to the gas station and pump gas, high five at the end, do a little spin around. I mean, Lindy literally filmed everyday life. Her and Cameron were at the eye doctor, and she's got the little covering over her eye, and Lindy's on the down low filming saying, this girl can't read that. I mean, she just filmed everyday life that is just so precious to me now. She would come home from college at 20 years old, and the first thing she would do is just come sit on my lap and tell me about all the things that were happening. It's just one of the things that I hold so dear to my heart, that my 20-year-old would still want to come sit on my lap and tell me all the things. We had such a special relationship. Her and I also share a birthday, which is coming up next month. And I used to always think that after I'm gone, I hope that she will be able to enjoy her special day, never dreaming that I would be the one that would have to have a birthday without her. So her birthday is actually next month, October 24th. Christopher's birthday is October 18th. So next month is gonna be a hard month for us with the birthdays coming up. But she was just such a joy to be around. When you had a day with Lindy, it was a day of laughs. She had such a great sense of humor. She was ready to just throw down and go any and everywhere. She lived life to the absolute fullest until her life was taken from her that December 17th night. And this is Christopher. Christopher was 17 at the time of the crash. He was a remarkable young man. He was well on his way to being valedictorian of his class. The highest score he had made on his ACT at the time of the crash was a 26. He was striving to make a 32. I have absolutely no doubt that he would achieve that goal. He planned out his life meticulously. He thought out every decision he made on how it would weigh on his future. He was an amazing athlete. The year of the crash, he received the first team All-State Basketball Award. He had also received the Golden Glove Award, and he was going to play football for his senior year, the upcoming year. I tell you, if I had a son, and if I could say I want a son and I want him to be this, and this. When I tell you Christopher checked every single box. He and I, from when he was little, I played all the sports with him. We would go outside in the yard and throw the ball. I played a lot of basketball with him. I wasn't that good, but I gave it my best shot. We would throw the football together. I mean, I can tell you it was countless hours that I stayed in the yard with him whenever he wanted to practice his sports. I love sports, so he and I, we made a great team together. We were always outside in the yard. And one of the things that I hold dearest to my heart about Christopher was he was known for his integrity. When Christopher gave you his word, you could count on it. He was just such a young man of integrity. He had decided that he wanted to go to college to be a software engineer. His oldest brother, Ren, is a software engineer, so he was going to follow in his footsteps. So he really had his life planned. I mean, he already had a Robinhood account. He was already selling and trading stocks. Him and his little friend had already made a video game. He was already taking courses on coding. I mean, he was very, very driven. And he thought out everything that he did to make plans for his future. This is his little girlfriend, Marissa. She was also in the crash with us as well. It was me, Marissa, Lindy, Christopher, and Cameron. Marissa and I were the only two to survive. And, you know, we lost the three that night. He was just such an amazing young man. I mean, even though him and Marissa were young, they had planned to go to college together. They, you know, even though they were young, I just know in my heart that that was going to be his wife. And they even told me that they were going to beat me. They were going to have 10 kids. I'm like, I want to see that. But you can just see how much was lost that night. So he was just such a remarkable young man. And this is my baby girl, Cameron. She was 15 at the time of the crash. 41 days short of her 16th birthday. 41 days short of getting her driver's license. She was so excited about being able to drive. She had a little countdown on her phone. I mean, she was counting the days. Her and I spent a lot of time, even more so than usual, that year because she had her permit. So we were doing a lot of her practice driving. And one of the things that I miss so much is when she would get in the car, she would put her little playlist on. And then we'd back out the driveway, and then we would go driving. And to this day, it's really a hard thing. I still look for her because we were together so much. And she would put her little playlist on, and she would sing and sing and sing the whole time that we were driving. She had a beautiful voice. I long to hear her sing again. It's one of the things I truly miss every time I'm in my car. She was one of the kindest children I have ever known. When she saw people hurting, her heart would literally break. We would be leaving Walmart or wherever, and sometimes you see people who are, you know, need a little help, a little money for food or something. If I didn't have money in my purse, Mom, go to the money machine. I mean, it literally broke her heart when she would see people hurting. Cameron was a cheerleader. She also played softball, and she loved the little baby in the picture is Katie's little boy. I mean, he's older now, but she loved him. She loved him. In fact, Lindy his name is Bregman, was Bregman's nanny. And it just weighs so heavy on my heart that they were only here for his first birthday, that they're not going to know him because of one man's decision to get behind the wheel and drive drunk. You know, I don't think that man intended that day. He woke up saying, I'm going to get drunk, I'm going to go drive, and I'm going to kill 3 beautiful children. I don't think that was his intention. But it happens. It happens, and it happened to us.
It's so bad. Go out there. Yeah.
School Homecoming Queen for 2019 is Lindy Simmons.
What am I now? What am I now? What if I'm someone I don't wanna run? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling. What if I'm out? What if I'm down? What if I'm someone you won't talk about? I'm falling again, I'm falling again, I'm falling.
So these are text messages between my best friend and I the night that it happened. It kind of shows you how the story unfolded. My dad called me at 10:29 on a Friday night. I was at a Christmas party with my husband, and I thought that was weird that my dad was calling me at all, much less late. So I answered and he said, "Hey, Mom's been in a wreck. It doesn't look good, but they said she's stable." And I said, "Where are y'all? I'm coming." And he said, "No, it's foggy out. Don't leave your kids." And I said, "My kids are already at a babysitter. I'm coming." So I hopped in the car with my husband, and little did I know at 10:33, Cameron had already taken her last breath, minutes after I got that call. But when my dad called, he didn't mention the kids, and kids are resilient. I thought if my mom's stable, of course they're stable, of course they're fine. So I was mostly worried about my mom. when I was rushing to the hospital. So I pulled into the hospital and I saw my dad and my brother frantic in the parking garage. And they said, Facebook is saying there's a fatality. He said, it's a post that says 2 fatalities, the rest in critical condition. I said, well, how do you know that's even us? And I was just in denial. When I got to the hospital, I went to the desk and I asked, is Lindy Simmons here? Is Christopher Simmons here? Cameron Simmons? Dawn Simmons? Marissa Darby? Only my mom and Marissa were there. And I was just so confused. Why wouldn't they be at the same hospital? So we started calling around. I said, we can't get any info. Oh, let me back up. So while we were waiting to find out where my sisters and my brother were, my dad's phone rang, and it was a state trooper, and he said the young blonde driver passed away. So my dad starts crying. He said, it's Lindy, it's Lindy. We didn't know for sure that Lindy was driving. Her hair was totally blonde, and Cameron's only had like blonde on the ends. So I texted my best friend. I said, it's like we can't get info. Still not 100% sure Lindy is gone, but I think my brain is trying to give me hope. We still can't find any of the kids. Every hospital we call is saying they aren't there. Maybe they were airlifted farther away. I said, that's what we are thinking. I called Baton Rouge General. Kyle, which is my brother, called New Orleans. I called Lourdes. I called Opelousas. No one has them. So then my best friend starts giving me hospitals in the area so that I wouldn't have to waste time Googling and seeing which hospitals are in the area, because it was about an hour and a half from where I live where the crash happened. She still spit out numbers to me, and the state trooper on the phone that told us about Lindy, he said that his best guess is that they were at a hospital called Opelousas General, because that is the closest hospital to where the crash happened. So my mother-in-law, I had called her. She was already on her way. She got there to pick us up, and she said, let's just go to Opelousas. We don't know if they're there. It's better than just waiting here, because my fear was that my 3 siblings were in a hospital room, severely injured, and no one's there with them. And I knew my mom couldn't get there, and my dad was with my mom. So I had to go. So I said, I called Opelousas. I asked, is any of these kids here? They said no. I said, well, is anyone there in a crash? She said, yes, you can come identify her. I said, what do you mean identify? She said, you can come identify her body. So the whole rest of the ride, I'm thinking, am I going to find my sister's body? So I get to Opelousas. Said, no one's here to check in. I only talked to a security guard who's going to ask a nurse. The charge nurse came out. He said, the young lady I have here is expired. Can you tell me what your sister looks like? And I said, she has brown, blonde hair, blue eyes, and he said, come, well, my husband said, show him a picture. I showed him a picture of both my sisters. He said, come to the back. My husband said, you don't know if it's us. I said, I know it's them. Charge nurse brought me to the back into a small room with a body bag and someone inside a body bag. He unzipped it. My mother-in-law was in front of me, and I said, who is it? She said, it's Cameron, my little baby sister. So I started crying. I called my dad. I said, Dad, they got it wrong. I said, it's not Lindy, it's Cameron. She looked like she was sleeping. I asked the nurse, I said, are you sure y'all tried everything? I said, she looks fine. He said, there was nothing we could do to save her. He said, every limb was broken. He said, she was barely alive when she got here. There was nothing we could do. So my mother-in-law said, well, can you help us find the other 2? We don't know what to do. So we left for about 5 minutes, came back in the room. He said, I found your brother. I said, thank God. He said, he's at Bunkie General. I said, at least he's okay. And I said, well, I know he's not okay, but at least he's alive. And he looked at me and he shook his head. I said, what? I said, what about my sister, the one that was driving? He said, she's still stuck in the car. I said, well, is she okay? He said, she's gone. So in a matter of 2 minutes, I learned 1/3 of my siblings are gone. So I called my dad and I said, Dad, he said, I know. The state trooper had got to the hospital and told him about all 3. And then these are more texts. Oh my God, Christopher's going too. They're all gone. Only my mom's alive. I said I just identified her body and I'm on the way to identify Christopher. It was about a 30-40 minute drive from Cameron to Christopher. I had to go give Christopher's name and date of birth and everything. And the reason they couldn't tell me they were there was because they didn't know their names. So they were in the hospital system as John and Jane Doe. So when I was calling asking, they were there. I called both the hospitals they were at. These are my kids and my siblings. That was a video of my siblings and my 3 kids. I have a 14-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old stepson, and a 3.5-year-old little boy, and they will never know my siblings. Well, my littlest won't. My oldest, Ami, the girl, her and Lindy had such a special bond since she was little. Ami's real dad signed his rights over. Ami got adopted by my husband. We moved here, we moved there. She had we moved around a lot when she was younger. One constant thing in her life were those 3 kids. Those were her safe place. And just in a matter of one night, all of that was gone from one man's decision. I don't think any of y'all would be able to live with yourself if you did that to another family. This man who did this he died. He doesn't have to face what he did. But can you imagine if he survived, what he would have to live with? Me, as a sister bear, I would make his life a living hell, to put it bluntly. But now he doesn't exist to me. But his legacy that he left on this earth is a murderer. He killed 3 kids because of something that he didn't need to do. His only worry that night probably was if he was going to get a DUI or not, if he was going to get caught doing it. But we got caught. That's who got caught, because he decided to drink and drive. You can see in the wreck here, there's Subway cups. Time just stopped in this car. They had just stopped at Subway, just had a meal on their way back. Everything's normal, just like you do every day. And you can just see. Mindy had no chance.
There were 5 deaths that night because of one man's decision, selfish decision, to get behind the wheel and drive while he was drunk. My 3 children, the drunk driver, and then further down the road they were diverting traffic, and an elderly man rear-ended a state trooper vehicle, and he lost his life as well. So one decision, there were 5 lives lost that night. 3 of them, young, beautiful children, y'all's age, with dreams and future and plans for their lives, just gone. The family that I had of 9 kids, it died that night. That family no longer exists. The dynamics of the family we had, they're gone. All the dreams, all the plans that we had, all the weddings, the graduations. Christopher's graduation was May 18th. Another empty chair event. Cameron will be a senior this year. It breaks my heart to think of another empty chair event graduation and all the empty chair events in between. It is one of the most difficult things ever. I'm so happy to see all the other kids graduating, getting ready to go to college. All the things, all the celebrations, the plans that you have. But it is the hardest thing ever when your child is represented by an empty chair because of a selfish decision to drink and drive and change our lives forever. The drunk driver was going 80 to 90 miles an hour. We were doing 75. There were no brakes applied. I mean, the physics of that, the impact of that. I mean, my car literally disintegrated. Just a week ago, my husband and I went to the crash site because Cameron's cross, we had 3 crosses by the crash site. Cameron's cross had fallen. So my husband and I, we went to repair it. So while he was fixing everything, I was walking around. And about 50 feet from where the crosses are, I was walking around in the grass and I found my battery and the big metal plate on the side of it that holds my battery. Every time we go to that crash site, I find a piece of my vehicle from that night. That's how hard of a hit that it was. The drunk driver was in his underwear. He was 3 times the legal limit, driving 80 to 90 miles an hour, going the wrong way on the interstate.
And this was his first DUI, or would have been had he lived. So it didn't take 1, 2, 3 times. It would have been his first. And first time, killed 3 kids.
I mean, can you imagine the weight of that? That's why decisions have to be made beforehand when y'all get behind the wheel of a car. You know, cell phones.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Put it away if you're tempted by your cell phone. Anything that can distract you, it's not worth it. And absolutely never do you drive after drinking. Because the mentality is they don't want to get caught. That's usually what people think of. I'm just gonna do this, but I don't want to get caught.
I'll take the back road.
Yeah, I'll take the back roads, I'll do this, I'll do that. And it's like Katie said, we got caught. An innocent family. Just trying to get home from a basketball game, like I'm sure each of you have done, gone to a school event, just trying to get home. It's just not worth it. What could be worth that? And the thing is, you can't say, oh, I didn't mean to, I wish I would have, I should have did this. You can't go back. Our crash occurred at 9:01. At 9:02, it's all over with. There's no going back. You can't, believe me, if I could go back, I would have did it. There is not an area of my life that has not been affected by this tragedy. I loved being a mom. These were my 3 youngest. I poured all my heart and all my soul into these kids. They were the absolute joy of my life. Now I can only dream. What have Lindy done? What would she be doing? Would she be a famous photographer? Would she be in marketing? She was in marketing at the time of the crash. Would she have followed that path? Who would she have married?
She wanted to be a mom.
She wanted to be a mom. The ripple effect of this will continue for the rest of my life. And all I can do is wonder and imagine where they would be. They loved life. They were kids who had such a bright and promising future. And there's just more pictures of the car. This is Cameron's last text to me. Can you get me gummy bears? And if you look in the door where she was sitting, there's a bag of gummy bears. The devastation and the hurt and the pain of grief, the only way I can explain it, I feel like I walk around with an invisible knife in my heart. It is the most painful thing to try and navigate through. Everything that I knew in my life after that night no longer exists, as far as like in my home. It feels like my home has lost its soul. There's no more laughter. There's no more horse playing, Christopher and Cameron play fighting. With raising 9 kids, my house was always loud and full of laughter and always something going on. There's no life in their bedrooms. How I close the door, it stays. No more messy rooms that I would love to see now. Everything's gone from one man's decision. And I tell you, don't think this can't happen to you. It can. It can happen. I was guilty of thinking that. I never in a million years thought that anything like this could happen to my family. But it can, and you need to keep that in mind, especially behind the wheel. A car is a very heavy piece of machinery. You can be killed in it, and someone can kill you, and it happens quickly, very quickly. I was injured very severely in the crash. And I want to make a note. I will always call this a crash. It is not an accident. When you make a conscious decision to get behind the wheel after you have been drinking, that is a choice. This was not an accident. This was a man's conscious decision to get behind the wheel knowing what could happen. Now, I'll tell you, does this happen every time? No, it doesn't. Who would be willing to take that chance? Who would be willing to take that chance? Because like I said, you can't go back. You cannot go back and change it, because if you could, trust me, I would have. This is the hardest thing I have ever had to deal with in my life. That my 3 youngest children would lose their life and that I would survive. It is so hard for me to navigate through this. And my family, 2 of my children have had to be admitted into inpatient. They couldn't handle the loss and having to deal with their little siblings not being here. They couldn't get it together to try and move forward. They were stuck, having trouble on their jobs, having trouble making it through the day.
This picture is from December 19th, 2 days after the crash. This was the first time that I seen my mom. And this is when I had to tell her that her 3 kids didn't survive. Because she didn't know. She has no recollection from the crash. And in the hospital, she was so out of it. She had no idea what was going on. And she kept asking, where's the kids? And my brother answered her one time. He said, Mom, don't worry about them. They're in good hands. He said, just worry about you. And she would think in her head, that's not the answer. Like, is Christopher in room 317, a broken arm? Like, why isn't anyone saying anything about them? And on December 18th, I had to start making funeral arrangements and pallbearers and all the things. So I wasn't able to go to the hospital on the 18th, but on the 19th I did. And when I walked in, I thought my mom would have been excited to see me. And all she said was, she was very, very weak. She said, where's the kids? And I said, they're okay. And we had a pastor with us, and he said, no, we just cleared it with the doctor, tell her. And she said, where are the kids? And I said, Mom, I said, they're gone. And she said, all of them? And I said, I'm so sorry. And she said, Lindy? And she would go back out of consciousness. Christopher, Cameron, and one by one I had to tell her they were gone. Her 3 kids, those are the last 3 kids at home. Her entire world with those 3 kids. And I had to tell her they were all gone. On top of planning a triple funeral. My dad was with my mom taking care of her. He couldn't plan a funeral. She couldn't plan a funeral. She couldn't even eat on her. Everything was broken. She was broken from head to toe. She was in a wheelchair for 3 months.
Yeah, when I entered I found this out after, when you enter a trauma center, you get a number. I was at number 35. When you are over 25, they don't expect you to make it. So, but here I am. So yeah, I had, because the whiplash was so strong, I tore both carotid arteries, splenic laceration, collapsed lung, many rib fractures, sternum fractured, wrist fracture, and my legs were severely broken. I have had to retire from my job after this crash. I was a mail carrier, and it's a very physical job, and my legs, I'm so thankful to be walking, but my body, especially my legs, is not anything the same as it used to be. So overnight, we lost 3 beautiful kids. I had to retire from my job, and overnight, my home is an empty nest. So, needless to say, it has been a very, very challenging time. So hard to adjust to this new life.
We would go, my older brother lives in Austin, and we would often take trips to go see him and his twins, and we would pile up in my car, all of us, the kids, my kids, and the last time we went after the crash, it's just my daughter in the back, quiet, no laughing, no videoing, quiet, and that's how everything is now. We are used to big families, loud, laughing, filming, everything. Now it's just quiet and boring. My daughter has a boyfriend, and when I show my little toddler my brother's picture, I say, "Who's that?" Say, "Christopher." He says, "That's Michael." He calls my brother Ami's boyfriend because he doesn't know Christopher. He wasn't even 2 when he passed away, and now he's about to be 4. He'll never know my siblings, and they were such a big part of my life. I have to watch my mom be brokenhearted all the time. My dad, my siblings, my kids. I had to switch from my full-time job to part-time to do this, so it even affected my career. Everything in my life has changed because of this. Because one man that we didn't even know, 54 years old. All the kids' ages added together doesn't even equal 54 years old. He got to live longer than all 3 of them combined. And I guarantee you, they would have contributed more to this world than he ever did.
And this is Marissa. Thank God she sustained the least amount of injuries. She had a broken femur, dislocated spine, C6, C7 disc bulge, left foot sprain, right hand fracture, ligament strain, and severe whiplash. Today, she is in college. She goes to college in Arkansas, and we keep in contact with her. But her whole life has been completely redirected. Her and Christopher had everything planned out, and she has had to totally redirect. You know, the physical things, they heal. You know, like I said, I'm not the person I used to be physically, but I'm very blessed. I can walk and get around. But my heart is so broken. I tell you, I will be a broken-hearted mama until I take my last breath. The broken heart is hard. And that will never leave. These kids was such a big part of my life. And to have so much gone is just so hard to navigate through. It is the most difficult human experience that I can think of, to adjust to this loss. And here's just some more pictures of all of us. This picture in the middle right here was, I had no idea, but it was our last Mother's Day together. Just Summary and Christopher, just, you know, Lindy was, she was our memory maker. I mean, she literally just recorded everything, everyday life, every event, not even big events, the small events, the everyday stuff that you think is insignificant. But once you lose people, to hear their voice, to look back on the simple things, the everyday life, is so valuable. It's so valuable. Okay, so this is January 3rd. So the crash was on December 17th. So they had to get with everybody, with the doctors, to collaborate, to try and figure out when are we gonna have this funeral. They didn't know how long I was gonna be in the hospital. You know, they just didn't know. So after talking, they came up with the date that the funeral would be on January 4th. This is January 3rd. This is the day before the funeral. We were at a funeral home for just the family to get to view him. I tell you, that is a day I will never, ever forget. This is the first time I saw them since December 17th. My last memory of my children alive and well is leaving the subway. We were laughing as we were leaving the subway because Christopher was in the back seat and he was texting me to tell Lindy to go bring Marissa to her house instead of bringing her to our house. And I remember looking back at him, I'm like, boy, you texted me to tell her to bring Marissa home, and we laughed. That's the last memory I have of my children alive and well. So I tell you, when we were behind those doors and waiting for them to open, think of 3 people in your life. 3 people, your people, that you love, that you do life with, that you talk to every day, like your people. Picture them in your mind. At 9:01, they're here. At 9:02, they're gone. Opening doors to not 1, not 2, but 3 caskets. Young children, young with bright futures. And to see those kids in those caskets was the most hopeless and devastating feeling I have ever had in my life. This is my son. My son Kyle I said, Kyle, bring me to Lindy. Bring me to Christopher. Bring me to Cameron. For 2 hours, he rode me back and forth. It's like I was so torn. I would go to one and I felt like I was leaving the other one out. We were just bouncing for 2 hours. Lindy looked okay. Cameron looked okay, but when I got to my beautiful boy, he had broken his nose. So his nose was purple and swollen. They tried to fix it the best they could, but his hair wasn't right. It just didn't look like it. It broke my heart. It didn't look like my beautiful boy. But for 2 hours, I went from Lindy to Christopher to Cameron. Just think of your 3 people you love. I love these kids. I poured every bit of my heart and soul into these kids because they were my babies. I didn't have any little ones behind them. What could be worth that? Not a text, not a distraction, a song on the radio, and never Settle it in your hearts now. You never get behind the wheel after drinking. And another thing, if you are a passenger and you know that person maybe has been drinking or just not driving safely, do it afraid and tell them that you need to get out of that car and try to do your best you can to not let them drive. But if that doesn't work, you do it afraid. Because this could be the result. And don't think it can't happen to you. Because it can. We never know what tomorrow brings. And this is the day of the funeral. Triple funeral.
I had to find 18 pallbearers. I had to go to the cemetery and pick out, do we want them in the ground? Do we want them in a mausoleum? Do we want to cremate them? How do you ask your mom that? What do you want to do with your kids? I had to go shopping for funeral clothes to dress them in. What would they want to wear? Did I pick the right thing? I brought their best friends with me to help me. I had to figure out who was going to talk, what songs we were going to play. So much went into planning a triple funeral that I was not prepared for.
So Christopher has a birthday coming up October 18th. He would be 19. Lindy, October 24th. She would be 22. Cameron's 18th birthday would be coming up in January. We're at a cemetery on those days.
You know, a lot of people, I didn't clarify, wonder why they were taken to different hospitals, and we recently found out for Cameron, but we had talked to Christopher's paramedic, but where the crash happened, they have 2 level 2 trauma hospitals 45 minutes away in the opposite direction. Cameron's paramedic was trying to take her to the hospital where my mom was, and she coded on the way, and protocol is to just get to the nearest hospital. So that's how she ended up at a smaller community hospital, and she passed away at 10:33. And Christopher was on his way to a different level 2 in Louisiana, and he coded on the way, and they had to exit. And that's why he ended up at a different, smaller hospital, and then he passed away instantly.
So on their death certificates, they have them passing away in 3 different places. This is where my life changed forever. This is where we were fixing their crosses. And I can go there today, any day, and still find pieces of my vehicle. Lindy died at 9:01. Cameron died at 10:33. And Christopher died at 11:06. I'm so glad I don't have the memory of my daughter, who had passed away instantly on the side of me. It is a blessing, and I tell you, I'm also, which this sounds crazy, I'm so thankful that I was injured so severely. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, I could not have taken the weight of losing those 3 kids if I would have been my whole self. There was no way, because I was so broken and so injured, I incrementally had time to slowly take it in. I could not have handled the weight of that. It would have been too much. And this is where they're buried. I keep a grave cleaning kit in the back of my car. Every day that I'm in town, I go and clean that gravesite. I'm out of town today. My husband's gonna go. I was such a hands-on mom. I just feel like I just always need to do something for them. They have a beautiful resting place. But I wish they wasn't there. You know, I have to tell you, there are two sides to this. One, you could either be the one who makes a bad decision and causes this. I don't think anybody would want the weight of this tragedy on them. Or the other side, we were innocent. We did nothing wrong that night. It was just out of our control. But I want to tell you, if God puts something on your heart, don't ignore it. Because I'm telling you, none of you are guaranteed tomorrow. You don't know what tomorrow brings. I know where my children are, and that is one of the things that gives me great peace. You know, as horrible as this was, God brings beauty from all things. Me being here and be able to share our story with y'all is a beautiful thing. It's a miracle, actually. For months, I couldn't even speak. I was so broken in every way possible. So, to come from that to this, it has become our mission to speak to young people, to make them aware, to make better decisions, so that y'all don't have to go through this kind of pain. It's hard. It's hard. But in my weakness, some kind of way, God strengthens me and Katie to do this, because our heart is to help young people to realize decisions have consequences. And then the older you get, the heavier the decisions and the consequences can be. Please carry Lindy, Christopher, and Cameron's story in your heart. It is an honor for me to speak their names, to tell their story, to build their legacy. So it helps me to be able to pass the message on to y'all, to help y'all to make better decisions. Because this is hard. This is real. This is real life. It's hard. So please, I have some little wristbands for y'all to help. Y'all can put them in your car or wear them or whatever as a reminder to help y'all make better decisions when y'all get behind the wheel. It's dangerous behind the wheel.
Don't do this to your mama.
No, don't do this to your mama. It hurts. It's a very, very painful thing. So, I just thank y'all for allowing us to share their story. And we have a nonprofit that we started. It's simmons3.com. I don't know if any of y'all, I'm sure y'all have TikTok. If y'all really want to get to know the kids in a much deeper way, Katie has almost 700,000 followers on TikTok. It's Katie, and I know y'all not gonna know this last name.
Cajun.
Yes, pronounced Derwin, but it's kind of, the way it's spelled, it looks like Derwin. Katie Derwin 1 at TikTok. She also has a YouTube with, I think 170,000 followers on YouTube as Simmons 3, where you can get a deeper look and really get to know the kids. They were some amazing little people whose lives were tragically taken. So preventable. It's such a preventable thing. You just have to make decisions before you get behind the wheel of a car and stick to them. You gotta stick to these things, because these kinds of things happen really, really quickly. So we're gonna pass out some bracelets, and thank y'all so much for allowing us to share our story, and I hope it touched y'all heart and help y'all to make wise decisions when y'all are driving or driving with someone, because things can happen real, real quick, and you can't go back. Once it happens,
And it only
that's
takes one time.
one time. One time. So, thank y'all so much for having us.